On the Gamebridge Ball State Cardinals Sports Network from Learfield. Welcome to This Week in Ball State Sports, a Ball State athletics podcast, highlighting the Cardinals athletic teams and administration each week, presented by Gamebridge. Here's the voice of the Cardinals, your host, Mick Tidrow.
All right, Ball State fans, this is the final episode of This Week in Ball State Sports. Hard to believe that we've gone 38 now episodes into this podcast. And first and foremost, thank each and every one of you for listening, taking the time to dive into Ball State sports with us all year long. We'll take a little bit of a summer hiatus of the podcast, but then we'll be back mid-August to get you ready for all the fall sports, set you up, and get you ready to go for the 2024-25 academic year. But we have a lot to cover today. Director of Athletics Jeff Mitchell joining us here on the podcast. Jeff, appreciate you joining one final time here on the 23-24 academic year.
Well, Mick, thank you for having me, and thank you again for all the good work that you've put into this podcast. I think it's really important that we identify ways that we can educate our fan base and educate our community about the great things that are happening within Ball State athletics and certainly Ball State University as a whole. And this has been a home run with all the people that have listened and the quality of visitors that you've interviewed, from our administrators to our coaches to our student athletes and even to President Mearns and those community sponsors who have joined the podcast as well to promote Ball State. So thank you very much.
Of course, Jeff, couldn't do it without the support of everybody that you just mentioned there and yourself for being so kind with and gracious with the time. And thank you, fans. Several fan questions coming in this week that we'll dive into, Jeff, that are pertinent to what's happening in the NCAA landscape, Ball State's landscape. But before we get to any of that, definitely want to start off with the highlights of what happened throughout this academic calendar year, because Ball State sports won more championships, All-Americans again, and just all-around success that continues to elevate this athletics department. Jeff, when you think about all that, how would you describe the performance of Ball State athletics this year?
Well, I think we had comprehensive success. And, we won 3 conference championships, either regular season or tournament championships. And when you tack that on with what we accomplished a year ago with 6 conference championships, it just continues to feel like there's momentum on our side. In addition to those championships that we won this year, we competed for several more, chief of which was baseball and softball here in the spring. We made it to that championship round. And I think you're seeing a lot of teams continuing to improve. We've got exciting times ahead of us too, I believe, as we look ahead to 24-25. And, we're really not done yet with the 23-24 year as we celebrate Janelle Rogers, who is going to compete in the NCAA Nationals in Eugene, Oregon, coming up next weekend. And she's got a legitimate chance to win a national championship.
That's exciting because she's been on the national stage before. Of course, being an All-American, super proud of what Janelle Rogers has done. We had her on the podcast last week. So if you want to check out episode 37, feel free, jump onto Spotify, Apple, YouTube, listen to that interview with Janelle and her teammate, Michaela Sumrall. Awesome conversation with both of them to wrap up the track and field outdoor season. Jeff, we talk about all this success and teams that were so close to also winning MAC championships. I think what's also incredible is when we look at first-year head coaches that have come in and made a statement at Ball State. I know we've talked about it a little bit, but women's tennis, softball have had new coaches and been able to do that. What do you think that the culture of Ball State speaks to first-year head coaches being able to jump in and have immediate success like that in year one?
Well, I think any new coach doesn't have to look far to see the great collection of coaches that we have overall. And so for Coach Shack and Coach Pena to look around their respective office spaces and to see the coaches that have contributed so much to the Ball State culture is gratifying for them, because I think they know and understand that they're in a place where people that have come before them that are here now have thrived, and that they have a chance to do the same thing, and they don't have to look too far to seek support. I think we have a supportive culture within the athletics department, And I am appreciative of the fact that they've come in and embraced that culture and have been able to lean on their peers to help them through the highs and lows of being a head coach. And that certainly impacts everyone who wears that head coach hat. And I think that the more that they are comfortable in what we're doing, the more that they are communicating about their programs, the more we offer forums for them to do that, the more they can promote the brand, not only of their program, but Ball State generally. And that contributes to the culture as well, because if you don't control your message, somebody else will. And I think it's something that we're doing a good job of, is to control the message of coming out of Ball State athletics. And Mick, certainly you have a lot to do with that, and we appreciate what you do to that end. But I want our coaches to feel as if they can run their programs in a way that gives them the freedom to do it. Certainly, I want to help them as best that I can, but I feel that our coaches understand leadership and how they can move their respective programs forward. So to hire people that understand that, they come in, that contribute to that culture is very important to me. And I think we did a really good job with Coach Shack and Coach Pena as they have come in and led their respective programs this year.
You said the word learn. I have to ask, what did you learn most about yourself in this role past year?
Well, thank you for that question, Mick. I think that I learned how to really enjoy all the newness that comes with an opportunity like this. I was really excited to get here, to start contributing to that culture, to start leading. And at every turn, I have had the privilege to learn from others and to experience new things like winter, and and develop really meaningful relationships, not only with our coaches, but with colleagues in the department, across campus, with our fans, with our sponsors, with our benefactors, within the Muncie community, within the greater state of Indiana, and even nationally. And more importantly, getting to support our student athlete population has been especially rewarding, and learning how to maximize my time to be able to accomplish all those things is an ongoing challenge, but it's very opportunistic as well.
Jeff, you mentioned all of those pieces, and one thing that comes to mind is community, and how Ball State branches out to not just Muncie, but to other parts of the state of Indiana. And that leads us into our first question from a fan, Grant Friend, asking, what is Ball State Athletics doing to help reach out to people in Indianapolis and the surrounding areas to help pull them in and enjoy Ball State Athletics, what they're doing now, and also what's coming in the future for that to be a cohesive unit?
Yeah, Grant, I appreciate that question. I think the short answer is we need to be looking at ways to do more. I've been really impressed and talk a lot about the community of support in Indianapolis. One of the things that we were really excited about this spring was to play baseball against IU. And unfortunately, the weather didn't cooperate. We were going to play that game at Victory Field, and it didn't work out for us. So we'll continue to identify events like that. Certainly had the opportunity to play a basketball game in Cambridge during basketball season. We'll continue to look at opportunities to play those games. We hosted several events throughout the year in Indianapolis to update our fans about what's going on in athletics, respective to some sports. I certainly anticipate that we're going to do something like that as we head into the fall. And we'll continue to make that Ball State brand as noticeable and as attractive as possible within the city. And I think it is to a certain extent, but we want to continue to reach out. We want to continue to be an option for those fans in Indianapolis to come and see what we're doing here at Ball State. And it's kind of a commitment that goes both ways, right? For us to travel to Indianapolis and highlight what we're doing. And we certainly recognize that there's a commitment on the other side for fans to make the trip to Muncie to watch our teams play. The good news is it seems like Muncie's getting closer and closer to Indianapolis as Indianapolis grows. And I think we're in a really neat community where we can offer quality Division I athletics in a comprehensive way, and that we're competitive and have a chance to win championships. And our fans fuel that energy for our student athletes and our coaches. And we want to continue to make Ball State athletics events to be fun. And we're still working on it. We've got some progress to make, but that is part of the fun. And I'm really grateful for our staff for all the work they do and the creativity that they put in to make our events as fun as they can be.
Grant, really appreciate your question here on This Week in Ball State Sports. Jeff, you mentioned competitiveness and trying to find a way to continue to up that. Ball State Sport Performance Center is one of the big conversations on campus. We know that things have been developing. We talked about it several weeks ago on the podcast, but are there any updates surrounding that can help the public get a better understanding of what's happening there with the Sport Performance Center?
Yeah, I'm really excited about the Eric Foss Championship Performance Center. We're grateful for Eric and his generosity to contribute a lead gift for this facility. This is going to be a transformational facility for Ball State athletics and is going to positively impact about 80% of our student athlete population. 18 of our 19 teams will participate in the Championship Performance Center on a daily basis. And it's going to set us apart, I think, from our peers within the Mid-American Conference. It's going to be about a 10,000 square foot space. A little over 7,000 of that will be dedicated towards strength and conditioning. We like to call it a power and speed laboratory. And there are going to be fun little elements that are going to be introduced into this space.
Okay.
And natural light, too, which is perhaps the most exciting thing for our student athletes and for our coaches, our strength and conditioning coaches, to enjoy just the ambiance of natural light as our student athletes compete in the weight room to get stronger and faster. And I think that once the facility is complete, which we're targeting January of 2026, so about a year and a half from now, our student athletes are going to flourish. And that's precisely what we're trying to do here, is to build opportunities, create opportunities for our student athletes to thrive and for our coaches to have excellent laboratories in which to train our student athletes to be at their very best. And this Eric Foss Championship Performance Center is the most important thing that we're working on right now from a facility standpoint.
From another facility standpoint, Worthen Arena is getting a little bit of a makeover with the seating, Jeff. What can you give the fans an idea about of what's happening there and what the future looks for Worthen Arena?
Well, I'm really excited about this one too. Those old bleachers, pull-out bleachers in the lower bowl, were original to the building, Mick. So they were built in 1992, and they haven't been changed in 30 plus years. They were beginning to fail, and we couldn't get replacement parts. So it was becoming a hazard, and it had been that way for several years. And when I got here, just surveying some of the things that we could do, it was pretty evident to me that we need to make an upgrade in that area just from a fan safety standpoint. And it does necessitate us having to do a reseat. And I recognize that people get really excited and attached to seats. And I respect that and understand it. Unfortunately, we couldn't get a configuration of seats to exactly match the old configuration. And so we're going to have nicer seats, more fan-friendly seats. They're going to have cup holders, and that's going to make people excited. I'm excited about it.
I was going to say, that sounds like a great deal.
That's right. But as we work through this reseat, I think we are going to sophisticate the model that we're doing with regard to a priority points list. And I think at the end of the day, there won't be too many fans that are terribly disrupted from where they have sat previously. I really appreciate the patience from our fans. I appreciate the questions that they've asked. I appreciate our staff who have fielded some of those questions and educated our fans about what we're doing. Because what we're doing is trying to strengthen Ball State. We're trying to strengthen our basketball programs, strengthen our volleyball programs. We're trying to strengthen the department as a whole. Yes, we're trying to increase giving because that helps our programs. But at the same time, we're not making drastic changes to how we've done business in the past. We're just making adjustments as our situation changes and as opportunity presents. And in this case, it was really a safety issue. And yes, we're pivoting to make a better situation for us going forward as we continue to grow and advance the Cardinal athletics. So I think that the arena is going to look awesome when we get to volleyball season. And that is going to lend to, I think, a great fan experience, not only for volleyball, but also for basketball as well.
Well, I'll send a few questions. Is there going to be any change to the flooring in Worthen Arena?
So there's not going to be significant changes to the flooring for this year. Of course, the construction of the new bleacher system is going to necessitate that we refinish the floor, but we will not completely strip it and repaint it, not this season. I think it's something that we're going to look at as we look into future years, but for this season, we're going to put a fresh coat of wax on it, and it is going to sparkle and really be fresh as we start the 24-25 academic and athletic season.
Jeff Mitchell joining us here on episode 38 of This Week in Ball State Sports. It is the academic year finale of the podcast before we have our season 2 beginning in the fall with our fall sports season. Jeff, there's a lot happening in the landscape of college athletics right now. The NCAA settlements with the Autonomy 5 conferences coming through, and there's so much more to figure out as the summer months go on. But Sidelines on Twitter wanted to ask what that means to Ball State. How does that impact what Ball State is doing at this current time?
Yeah, it's a very important question, and I know that it's a question that many people are asking. Mick, earlier on Tuesday of this week, as you know, we had an all-staff meeting where I addressed those that could make that meeting about what's going on with that NCAA settlement and to underscore the strength of Ball State and its health and how we are going to utilize that as a strength as we go forward. There will be a revenue distribution cut. In other words, we will not receive as much as we have been. But I think we're in a situation to be able to withstand that and continue to generate sources of revenue that can offset that over the next several years. As I told our staff, this is serious, but it's not scary. The serious part is we're going to have to make adjustments in how we look at the athletics enterprise going forward. But it's not scary to the extent that athletics is going to completely change and be unrecognizable. What we're doing is entering into the modernization of intercollegiate athletics and higher education. We've been in a model that has been remarkably consistent for the past 100 years, but the last 10 to 20 or so, you've seen small change, and it's really accelerated, even in the past 12 months. And some would argue in the past 12 days. So I think we have to be nimble. This is a fluid situation, but I like our chances of how we can continue to compete, how we can adjust because of the health of the institution, the alignment that we have with our board of trustees, with the leadership of President Mearns, as that extends to our athletics department and throughout our athletics department with the excellent leaders that we have within our units and within our athletic programs, I am confident that we can emerge in a very productive place in terms of how we're going to be competitive, not only in our league, but certainly regionally and nationally. Not every institution can say that, but the conversations that I've had with President Mearns, the conversations that I've had with our coaches, I continue to be very confident that we're going to be able to develop a very competitive plan of how we want to continue to move the needle to advance Ball State athletics and Ball State University. And we've got creative folks on our staff, and we've got hardworking individuals that love to compete, and sign me up for that combination any day of the week. It's part of why I took this job. And I think part of why I was attractive to come in and lead this athletics department. So I'm really excited about it. I'm energized by it. As I told our staff today, and as our staff knows this about me, I love a challenge. And while this certainly is a challenge, I see it very clearly as a significant opportunity for us. And we're not going to have a ton of clarity right out of the gate. I do want to assure everybody that there's no clear answer right now. However, we're going to work very diligently to ensure that we get answers, and then that those answers help us inform our path forward. But again, I'm looking forward to working with the teammates in the athletics department, and that's going to be coaches, administrators, staff. We're going to lock arms with people across campus that support us, and continue to do the Ball State thing that we always do, which is strive for excellence. So while we are in a bit of an unknown situation, I think as we seek clarity, we're going to seek clarity with confidence, and we're going to be positioned well to continue to advance Ball State.
Now, Jeff, I know there's so much that has to take place before we get to all of what you just said, and for things to possibly be more clarified in the coming months. But is there a possibility that with all of this shuffling that the MAC adds?
I don't know the answer to that question today. I do know that I think it's going to be really important and critical, not only for the institutions to look at how we want to contribute to the composition of the MAC, but it's going to be important for the league to take a look at it as well. So I think the only sure thing in college athletics right now is change. So I do think there will be discussions that are going to be had. Now, as we record this, there have been no conversations, to my knowledge, about expansion, but anybody that has been studying expansion over the years will notice that it's difficult to have an odd number of institutions within a league from a scheduling standpoint. So do I think down the line, whatever that time frame looks like, that the league would entertain the opportunity to expand? I think that's probably likely. However, I am unaware of any conversations to that end at this point.
Well, Jeff, episode 38 of This Week in Ball State Sports is the finale. Is there anything you want to lay out there for Ball State fans that we haven't talked about? We've covered a lot of ground, but is there anything that jumps off at the top of your head that you want to say to Ball State fans before we let you go and before episode 38 and this season of the podcast concludes?
My message to our fans is one of gratitude. I've been blown away by the level of support that we have received over the last now approaching 16 months of my time here at Ball State. Ball State has always been a special place. That is the word that people use most often with me in their description of Ball State. And I think that's the case. It is a special place with people that work hard and fans that care passionately about Ball State. And so I'll take that. That is a strength. I will take that in terms of our fans being great teammates for our student athletes and our coaches. And we're going to continue to work to put our fans in a situation where they can be proud of what we're doing and that we can be easy to cheer for when they come and support us. I will say that fan charge that I have for them is to continue to attend as many Ball State events as you can. Our student athletes, and I realize that sometimes those rosters are changing year over year, but while we have them, Mick, we have an opportunity and a responsibility to share with them the Ball State experience. And so that carries over to our fans. Come and support these young men and women who we're trying to develop, whether we have them for a year or 4 years, into leaders and winners. They contribute to that end by showing up, buying season tickets, contributing to the varsity, Cardinal Varsity Club, so essential to the lifeblood of our athletics department. And we're going to continue to put on a good show as we continue to ramp up what our fan experience looks like. And we're going to do all these things in the best interest of our student athletes as we continue to develop them into leaders as they go on into their respective communities and represent Ball State in meaningful ways after their time here is concluded.
Well, Jeff, that's beautifully said, and we appreciate all the time that you've put into this podcast and everything that you've done the last 16 months. So thank you, Jeff. It's been another successful Ball State sports academic year. One more, Janelle Rogers. Finish strong, Janelle, and enjoy the rest of what is the summer before we get to the fall, Jeff. Really appreciate you.
And really quickly, thank you, Mick. I'll add this, our central mission here too is to educate. And I'm pleased to report on this podcast today that our student athletes ended the spring 2024 semester with a 3.4 cumulative GPA. Just a remarkable achievement when you're talking about more than 450 student athletes across 19 teams. So I'm really proud of the work that Laura Hillenberg and her student athlete support services staff do for our student athletes, and certainly appreciative of our coaches and their messages of significance when it comes around academic success and academic support. So we're really proud of our student athletes, whether it's in a classroom, on the athletics field, or within the community. And it's a great time to be a Cardinal. So thank you, Mick, and go Cards.
Sometimes it's not the moment. It's the moment before the moment. The moment you make a choice. The moment you take control. The moment only you can own. Gainbridge lets you invest on your terms. So you're not only in charge of this moment, but all the moments to come. Start investing now at Gainbridge.io.
Welcome back into This Week in Ball State Sports, and we're with head coach Adrian Wheatley of Ball State Track and Field, wrapping up the MAC outdoor season conversation. Coach, first off, congratulations on the success from the outdoor, but thanks for joining us here on the pod.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.
When you look at the outdoor season as a whole, we talked with Michaela and Janelle here on the podcast, and they kind of gave their synopsis of their viewpoints of what the outdoor MAC championships competition looked like. But from where you stood as the head coach of the program, how would you describe the performance?
Yeah, it was fun. I want to say the team was resilient. I think there were opportunities that the team could have looked at situations and said, hey, listen, we can't do these things. We can't do these things. Event after event, individual after individual, they kept showing up for each other, and I think, for me, that's exciting. And when we talk about it all the time in the program, cover each other. Cover each other. We asked a lot from our superstars, and they did a lot for us. But then we had individuals that stepped up that were, maybe weren't on that list, and things. We talk about messing up the form chart. So whatever you come in ranked at, let's mess that up. And do better than what you're ranked on there. And we had several ones that broke the form chart up and scored points that maybe we didn't have on paper and things of that nature. So it was fun to have, the young ladies competing for each other, and it was fun.
The word adversity has been used a couple times on the podcast. How did you see the team battle through that adversity?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think this team particularly, I mean, has been battle tested all year long. You know, again, there's always been things that maybe didn't go the way that we wanted to, different challenges that happen in sports. And I think, you know, I always feel confident when our team, you know, when the lights come on for the big show, they always find a way to step up, you know. And I think from what I've seen just in training and just their camaraderie as a group, they're doing it for each other. You know, and for me as the head coach, I kind of sit back and you know, sometimes just get out the way. You know, allow them to do what they have prepared for all year long, and for you know, the sisterhood that they've built for each other, and just allow that to come out.
There were some changes to the 4x100 due to some injuries. Michaela steps in, becomes the anchor. Yeah. How awesome was it to see that type of performance in that type of moment?
Yeah, no, it was awesome, but it wasn't surprising. I mean, again, she's been battle tested, you know, her whole career. You know, we've had an opportunity to work with her this year, but you know, there was not a doubt in my mind that she was someone that was going to step up and make it happen. And you know, again, we had a conversation before when we were sitting down, you know, trying to work some things out and who's the personnel. And you know, I was like, hey, Miss Summerall, you know, this is your opportunity. And she's like, I know, you know, and then she knew in her heart there was really no other way to kind of work through it. And you know, we kind of joked a little bit afterwards. I was like, I'm gonna text her and see if she's okay. I'm like, no, she knows the assignment. She's a, you know, a senior here who's has been through you know, battles and competed, and she knows the assignment. So it was exciting, you know. Like I said, I knew when we you know, through the first three legs, we were in a good position, and you know, I knew we had the hammer on the end. I was pretty confident that we would you know, do what we came to do.
That's a perfect way to sum up how you said, just sometimes get out of the way. As a coach, you want to be involved and make sure that everything's lined up. But like you said, sometimes you don't send that text. Sometimes you already had the conversation. Just let it go.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, again, I think it's I think a lot has to do with just the rapport that I have with the young ladies and understanding, like, okay, you know, if you know, I'm always asking questions, always getting feedback on, hey, what people are feeling, how we're getting there. And, you know, again, I believe that through time, you build up that rapport. And when someone says, hey, I can do these things, I believe that they can do those things. And so, again, I want to make sure that I support them in that area. And again, it's a collective group. You know, they're like, hey, what about this? Like, no, that's not on the table. This is what's on the table. Let's work through it. And then, okay, and kind of go from there. But, you know, ultimately, it's, you know, I've said this numerous times, you know, I didn't run one step this weekend. You know, the young ladies went out there and did it, and they competed, and it was just exciting to kind of see just the effort that they have. And, you know, at the end, we kind of sum up everything, and just the amount of love poured out for their teammates and their experience and their time here is special, right? And I think that's organic, and the relationships that they'll have here that will last the rest of their lives. And, you know, as a coach, that's fun to watch and see.
How would you describe the impact Michaela's had on the program since she got here?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, when, you know, Michaela came to the program, it had just a bunch of, it just added more, you know, of that mature leadership. Hey, listen, you know, I was able to have success where I was at before. Now I'm bringing that here. You know, I believe it actually took pressure off of some of the other young ladies, and so, hey, they can do themselves and not feel like, hey, I've got to do this all by myself. And so, again, kind of shared the load, you know, and you know, she you know, has the ability to challenge individuals, but in a space that is received. And I think that's one of the assets that she's brought to this program, and it's been fun to work with her. Wish we had a couple more years. We've been trying to find ways to get them out, but she may be thinking she's done, yeah, that type of thing there. But yeah, it's been fun.
How have you seen Janelle grow as a student athlete, as a person, all of that?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing that I've seen Janelle grow in her time here is just believing in herself. Right. I mean, I think, again, you know, she's her hardest critic. You know, she's really hard, has high expectations on herself, but that's what also makes her great. You know, and I think, again, always striving to be the best version of herself. You know, for me to be able to see just, when I first got here, you look at, you don't really know anybody. You look at names on a piece of paper and you kind of start seeing what's going on. And, again, I always want to make sure that we have a team atmosphere, and was really, okay, hey, what we can do for the team, what we can do for our team. And what Janelle's done, she's always been about the team, always been about the team. There's been times, hey, listen, I need you to, can you help out? Can you help the team out here? Can you help the team? Yeah, I got you, and just stepping up and time after time. And there are things that she does within this program that I don't see. There's things that she does within the locker room, within just at practice. She is the silent leader within the group, and really has really made this team the way that they are. And I think she's proud of the way that this group has gone. We've had conversations and stuff, and about the culture and making sure that we've got a good culture. And again, I always say, hey, as long as I'm here, we're going to have a team culture, right? No one individual is bigger than this team. We're going to make sure that we do that. And I think collectively, I think when people love one another, they do amazing things. And there's a lot of love within this team. And again, Janelle is a silent one. Again, it's the conversations walking back to the next attempt, or in between reps, or in the locker room, or on the butt. It's all the small little touches that she has done, and you can see those type of acts throughout the team. And I think her teammates are running for her as well. They are running for her as well, and I think, again, it's that piece there of saying, hey, how can we share this load, what we can do, and things of that nature. So it's been fun. She's cracks jokes sometimes, and you're like, oh wow, that's funny, and she smiles, and that type of thing there, and so.
I think one of the we always talk about, or we always see, like on TV in the NFL or the NBA, somebody may have made a mistake. And a football player, you can envision it, has their head down, and a teammate comes up, like picks her head up, picks her helmet up, and says, hey, keep your head up, you're fine. It seems like this team does a lot of that, and that's part of the culture that you've helped establish. But how do you see that playing such a big picture? And, hey, I've got you, our team's got you, even if things didn't go the way that you maybe wanted it to in that moment?
Well, again, and we play loose, and again, I think I try not to make it a stressful environment, because I don't believe anybody on this team does not want to perform. I believe everyone in this program wants to be the best version of themselves. And so we want to create an environment where it's okay to make mistakes, and you're not going to be judged because of the mistakes that you made. And so we really just are always trying to make sure, like, okay, we're going to go out there. We may have a bad rep. We may have a bad meet. We may have a bad day, but that's okay. We're allowed to have those days. And again, having that space where I feel like, the young ladies can be themselves and not worry about those things, I think really allows them to really take the big next steps, and small things. Summerall and I were talking about this last night in the weight room. We had a couple of individuals that were, oh man, I don't know if I can put some weight up there. I may not be able to move. No, it's okay. Here, let's put some weight on it. Let's put some more on it. And it was just that type of and it wasn't a threatening. It was encouraging, and before you know it, people were doing it, and it just became kind of second nature. But first of all, being confident and having the space that you can have that conversation with your teammate. Also being a part of a team, understanding it's coming from a place of love, and they're trying to continue to help each other. Again, that's communication. That's I think that's what makes great teams. And like I said, I've been fortunate enough to be a part of a lot of teams that have had that, and this team is the gold standard of what we want in a program.
We know Coach Wheatley as Coach Wheatley, but who's Coach Wheatley outside of track and field? What are some hobbies? We know you have a family, but like what's a hobby that if you have an hour or two to get away, what are you doing?
Yeah, first of all, like I said, Coach Wheatley outside of here, I'm a husband. Yes. It's my number one priority there. Again, I make sure that I become, I want to be a good dad, and a good coach. And so those are kind of my three things. And, I feel it all sometimes throughout the day. But, I enjoy being outside. I like hiking. I like those type of things, being in nature. Obviously just hanging out with my friends and stuff like that. And, I don't really have a ton of time right now, because we are in season and my kids are in season as well, and we're traveling. So, that, I'll have some time to do that, after the trials. Yep.
So, Coach, before we let you go here, when you sum up, we've talked about so much within the podcast with you and Janelle and Michaela, but what do you want to say to Ball State track and field fans, Ball State fans as a whole, about this program, about the direction, about where you're headed, and what this team can continue to be?
Yeah, I think, again, since I've started here, I think you can see the direction that we want to go, and I think, again, we're going to be team driven. We're going to continue to identify, the right people. And what I mean by that, character is really important to me, because, again, I think if you identify the right people, they will perform, and run through walls for you, and so, again, getting that, identifying those right people, and, having a culture that can, continue to sustain it. And again, we're really systematic in how we're trying to build this team, and, there are areas we need to work on. We're not there yet. There are definitely areas that we need to work on, and we're going to continue to work on those pieces there. But collectively, I want us to keep moving forward, and I think we've got I think we're starting to get more people to kind of realize what's happening here in Muncie, and I think, again, within the university and kind of within the our region and things of that nature. So I think people are starting to see what's going on. For me, like I said, it's really about the student athletes and having this experience, because they're going to have to hang their spikes up at some point, right? And I think when you do that, you're going to look back on your time and your experiences here, and I always want the student athletes to look back and say, hey, this is a great opportunity, and we talk a lot about is like, how will your class be remembered, right? And we all have those. Man, that class, whew, they were tough. They had this person, they were loaded, and things of that nature. So just kind of continuing that tradition and again, make people proud of what we're doing here.
We can't wait to see what that growth continues to look like, Coach. We appreciate you. Thanks for joining us on the podcast.
Love it. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening to This Week in Ball State Sports, presented by Gamebridge. The preceding has been a Learfield presentation on the Gamebridge Ball State Cardinals Sports Network.